Welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Aaron Cooney, episode 138 coming at you here. And hey, let's get into it. We mentioned the Pioneers taking on Corbin University in the first ever appearance in the national tournament for women's basketball. We'll go right to those highlights from Sioux City, Iowa. We are there live with cameras, also getting set up with the live broadcast as well. There you see Point Park inside early. It's Jocelyn Peterkin kicking things off. Then watch this play. It's going to be very important later on. Emily Schartner fighting for a rebound. Gets knocked down to the ground and get rolled up on top of there and put in slow motion. She would finish the first half, but that injury will be very important later on. But for the Corbin Warriors, Bennett starts things off for them. But Point Park answering back. There's April Austin for three. Good, and 1,000 points on her Pioneer career. Suwaga going to answer right back, though. She hits the three there. And then Fetters, she drives to the inside. Bucket and the foul. This is all part of a 16-5 Corbin run to retake the lead. Fetters one more time. The deep three from way downtown. That one was coming from Portland, Oregon. Point Park, though, down by 7, 2.5 to go, trying to get back into it. Kristen Beatty, nice move to get in the inside. She finishes up. Then with time winding down, Point Park looking for the tie. It's Emily Schartner for three. Good, and the tie. Point Park taking things, tied up 31, and that would be the last you see of Emily Schartner. She would not play in the second half due to concussion-like symptoms from that play we showed you early on. Second half, Bennett again getting things started off early. Then Suwaga, whoop, with the spin move around Savitsky, goes down on the baseline. Pioneers down early. They need to answer back, and who's going to be that person? It will be Jocelyn Peterkin. She was huge in this game. She finished up with a double-double, 17 points, 11 rebounds for her in her last game as a Pioneer. Though, but answering back, I don't know how you let Moser get wide open like that, but Mauser right there, 54-46 Pioneers still trying to get back. It all starts with a play there. April Austin hits the two. Point Park now down by 5. Savitsky hits the 3. Pioneers all part of a 7-0 run here to take their first lead since the first half, 57-56 after the Savitsky 2. After a few fouls, you're going to see going to the line. There's Fetters. She goes 1 of 2. Pioneers now trail 59-57. Point Park's turn. Beatty hits a free throw. Pioneers down by 1. Need to get the ball back without fouling. They do right there. 26 seconds left. April Austin inside for the win. Not going to happen. Rebound tipped around. Who's going to come up with it? Peterkin tips it. Savitsky calls timeout. Pioneers last chance. 6 seconds. Peterkin up for the win. No, they cannot get it. The Pioneers fall 60-58 in their first round matchup with Corbin University. Point Park ranked 23 there. You see Corbin number 10. And guys, you were there with us, and just not enough from the Pioneers, and they couldn't get it done on the offensive side of the game.
Yeah, Aaron, it really came down to the fact that they lost a huge key for this team. It was Emily Schartner going down in the first half. Like you saw, she was able to finish the first half, but then the doctors had a look at her during halftime. Concussion-like symptoms held her out in the second half, and I think we're looking at a completely different game, Matt, if she's there.
Yeah, I mean, Emily Schartner, she was a huge presence in that AMC championship game when she had 17 or 19 points in that game. When you lose your leading scorer going into your first round of the national tournament, you got to find some other solutions. And, you know, this whole team had players step up throughout the season, so they were in that situation again. You know, without Schartner, I think they handled it very well for just being an abrupt injury that they were not expecting in this tournament. So I thought the Pioneers did fairly well on the offensive side without Schartner.
And you said it right there, and Kevin, we talked about this a lot, and you bring it up, coming from Coach Tony Grenick. Hold them under 60, score more than 60, you guys win. And Point Park unable to capitalize on that.
And 60-58's the final here. Yep. That was the mantra all year long. This was a defensive team, one of the top 5 teams defensively all year long in the nation. And again, that was the goal all year long. Hold the other team under 60, hope we score 61. They lose 60-58 in this one. And again, it comes down to the offensive side of the floor. But it wasn't just the absence of Schartner. April Austin took a little while to get going in the second half. Jocelyn Peterkin, guys, was really the only solid key throughout this entire game. She was really there. Katrisa Savitsky was a big part too. She really struggled from the field. Got it going as part of that quick 7-0 run, the Pioneers taking the lead. But aside from that, Savitsky wasn't all there. Peterkin really had to hold down the fort offensively.
You know, and really a big part of this game is when the Pioneers are up 22-17 in that game. And, you know, Coach Tony Grenick went to his bench very early on, and that really strayed away from their game plan they usually stick to. And that's where the Corbin Warriors really took control of the game. And, you know, the Pioneers didn't really score any points in that run. And I think that's where they could have made up some ground. When Emily Schartner went out of the game, I think Coach Tony Grenick just panicked a little bit. He was looking for some sources for scoring, and he ran a little bit of a roadblock with his bench not being able to produce there for Point Park. So they were having some roadblocks they had to really work with it in this contest.
And despite despite the loss, guys, monumental season for the Pioneers. Accomplished, numerous goals they set out beginning of the season, and a lot to be said, a lot of praise for this Pioneers team.
Yeah, and it's something that we all thought was a possibility going into the year, Aaron, but it wasn't something that I guess could be expected. 14-13 the 2 years prior, with arguably the best guard in the AMC with Ashley Henderson. She graduates, she moves on, and now a completely new system, 2 new coaches, completely new coaching staff. April Austin and Jocelyn Peterkin, the big mainstays offensively for this team. You get players like Shartner and Savitsky that we've been talking about. They come into the fold, they come into this lineup, but the defense was just a complete 180 or even a 360 from what it was in years prior. Best record since the early 90s from this basketball team, and I think building blocks for the years ahead.
Yeah, definitely. You look at this team early in the season, and you saw that Coach Tony Grenick, his team was only a 5-4 with 9 games played. There's going to be some question marks. Can the coach really get this team to follow his system? And I think once they got that in store, the team really started believing, hey guys, defense is going to win us ball games and it's going to win us championships. And that won the AMC championship. And I think that's going to be something he's going to implement into his system. And I think he did a great job with that this year. He's just going to keep bringing in players that are going to fit that build for years to come.
Yeah, and Matt, I think that's something that they knew going forward was the goal for him. I mean, one of the first things he said is, do you guys know where the national tournament is held? And that's something that wasn't on their minds to start the year, but he put it there really quickly, and he knew the AMC was a winnable conference. They did that. They did their job. They won the conference. They went to the NAIA tournament, made a good showing for themselves, and again, this is now a place that players, new recruits, will look to play.
Now, where do we go from here? You mentioned new recruits, Point Park losing a lot of big players. You lose Jocelyn Peterkin, you lose Kristen Beatty, Kristen Veselany. You'll have April Austin for half a year, but guys, looking to next year, how can Point Park rebuild and capitalize on what they did this year?
I really think players are going to have to step up internally, but I think they're also going to have to go on the recruiting end as well. You see, Kristen Veselany is going to be out of the system. You can replace her. I think Teresa Davis is a very good player that you can put in that role, and she'll succeed in that role. But Jocelyn Peterkin, that's a very big gap that the Pioneers are going to have to go outside and try to maybe find a transfer or an incoming freshman to fill that build, because you really need a center in this system because you need to get those rebounds there. The Pioneers aren't a big rebounding team, but once you get those second chance opportunities, that's going to get your team an opportunity to win.
And I agree with you completely about Veselany. She's been a player for this team for 4 years, so it's not only her skill set, but it's what else she brings to the team and to the floor. She knows this team inside and out. But on the Jocelyn Peterkin note, I do think going outside is going to be a necessity for this team. But I see a player inside the system right now that if she can get her game going, I think Anna Maria Boshkova is the kind of player that can step into that role if she can play at the level that we know she can. She came in from a D2 school at Fairmont State. She transferred in 2 years ago, and she hasn't really hit that stride yet, guys. But when Jocelyn Peterkin transferred over from Carlo, it took a year. It took a year or two, and her junior year was her best year here at Point Park. Not to take anything away from her senior season, but I think her junior year was her best year. If Anna Maria Boshkova can step into that role and step into that mindset of, I really can be a dominating force in the new conference that they're going into with all the Kentucky teams and in the southwestern area from here, I think Anna Maria Boshkova can be a big key.
Well, we will see how that plays out next year. Gentlemen, thank you for all your help throughout the year and throughout the basketball season. We'll hear from you guys. We'll hear from Matt at least next year. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Throughout the years. A couple other notes. April Austin, NAIA All-American or honorable mention. Then on the men's side of basketball, huge deal here for TJ Hetherington. AMC Player of the Year, also All-AMC first team for him. He led the nation in scoring at 24.5 points.
Meaning best point guard in the nation.
That's what you can see. Devon Alexander, All-AMC honorable mention. That'll do it for us on basketball. Stick around after the break. We're going to talk baseball with Chris Hoffman.